Yeah, we're about to jump into it, man. We've just been warming up here. We've got Dara on the call. So Dara, just give us an idea of how much you know about blockchain so far.
Hi, I'm an absolute newbie. So, the word newbie describes me. I know nothing. I was in a class once and I was given some YouTube links to go, check out. I checked it out. In fact, it was just so much information for me, first off. And then I'm like, you know what, let me just leave this. I've got no business here. So I got into a conversation with Josh once, and then he tried to break those things down. And I attended one session here, and then everything still looked so chunky. And so he felt it was a good idea for me to come on board and stop everybody and ask questions and get clarity. So, here we are.
Yes, here we are. So I guess it's time to get into it, guys. I guess we're recording, yeah?
Yep,
okay,
we're recording.
So I'm gonna get going with the introduction. So, hello. Welcome to episode 17 of the AfroFinLab, where we aim to make this crypto nonsense make sense. My name is Azeez Saeed, and I'll be hosting today's episode. Last week, we had a great conversation with Umed, a seasoned investment professional, and Jay, someone who works in public-private partnerships of infrastructure. But this week, our expert is Philippe from the Cardano Effect podcast, an entrepreneur with extensive experience in logistics and distribution, also a stake pool operator within the Cardano community. Now, some of you may already be wondering, what is a stake pool operator? What is this language that Azeez is speaking in? Well, the AfroFinLab comes with a referee to decipher this foreign language. Today's referee is Dara, a creative entrepreneur and brand development professional hailing from the great city of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Our referees are here to help us decrypt this crypto nonsense by asking the quote-unquote dumb questions, the ones that people may not ask in fear of not looking so smart. But here at AfroFinLab, we're here to make all of this make sense to all people, so there are no dumb questions. I'd like to take this moment to welcome our guests, Philippe and Dara, to the AfroFinLab. It's great to have you both on today's show.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Dara, I just want to let you know that I myself was in your shoes as a referee just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to say this now, and I said it to last week's referee. Please feel free to interject at any point. There's no pressure to do so, but if you don't understand anything, please feel comfortable to let that be known. Here at the AfroFinLab, our goal is to make this crypto nonsense make sense. We want you to help us do that while Philippe exposes us to his world. For our audience, I want you to know that I'm not tech savvy at all. I actually work within the creative industry. And the reason why I'm telling you this is I want you to know and see that the AfroFinLab is a space for people within the diaspora and beyond to follow their curiosity into the ecosystem, the blockchain ecosystem. So now I'm just gonna lay down some ground rules of how the show is gonna proceed. So we're gonna discuss for about 45 minutes. And again, Dara, feel free to interject at any point. And if anything doesn't make sense to you, ask a question. And then after those 45 minutes, we'll have 15 minutes for questions and answers. So let's get into it. Do you wanna start the show, Felipe? Do you wanna tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Philippe. I got involved in blockchain investing in cryptocurrencies in particular in probably the end of Q1 or beginning of Q2 of 2017. I ran upon Cardano at the end of 2017, started investing in the native token for Cardano, which is ADA. And I started a YouTube channel shortly after. And then I also started a podcast with someone else in the community named Rick called the Cardano Effect. And we've been trying to break down Cardano in average layman's terms. So we take complex issues and we try to break it down so everyone can understand, regardless of whether they're just entering the crypto space or they're veterans. And it really progresses the conversation forward because, especially with the project like Cardano, it's very scientifically advanced. So if you're not a coder, if you're not a all-star developer, it's very hard to understand what exactly is going on with the project. But if you condense the information and break it down the concepts of what they're trying to achieve are a little bit more manageable, and you can understand them. And I think that if people understand the projects that they're investing in, they're going to invest with greater clarity, and they're going to be involved with something that may have a longer term or a greater deal of success long term. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon Cardano. And yeah.
Philippe, I would like to ask, like, did Cardano immediately make sense to you? Like, what actually drew you, like, what caught your attention about the project?
The academia behind it. So when I first got into cryptocurrency, a lot of the projects that I was researching, it seemed a little bit all over the place. It's not like the developers behind the project aren't intelligent. It's not like they're not capable. It's not like their IQ for developing was greater than mine. Of course, it was greater than mine. I'm not a developer, but there was no guidebook. There was no manual. There was nothing that was indicating that there was any sort of process for the creation. And when I stumbled upon Cardano, it's like they have all these papers, they have this research behind it. Things are peer reviewed. If you've ever written a thesis in college or at university, you understand the process, the peer review process, and how intricate and intense it can be, and how getting your work actually proofread by other experts within that field validates the research that you're doing to another degree. And when you look at Cardano, when you go on the IOHK portal or the IOG portal and you look at their papers, you see that a lot of them have been submitted to extreme or the top level crypto conferences, and they've been looked at by experts in the field. So if that's not validation that they're on the right track, I don't really know what is. And Cardano is one of the few projects out there that actually does it like that. It's not the only one, but that scientific rigor, it makes your investment feel that much more sound.
Right. So other than like Cardano, outsourcing professional processes and processes, so to say, to validate their inputs, the concept of blockchain itself, what does it really mean to you? Does it resonate to you? Like, where do you see like blockchain going into, like, and also like, the sectors of life is going to disrupt, especially for developing worlds?
Okay, that's a big question to unpack. I guess what I see blockchain as is less, more transparency within the financial system. And this whole idea that ledgers are tracked and everyone can have their own input on the ledger, but at the same time, it's verifiable. You don't have some kind of third party that's omitting data or excluding someone from the financial system just because they don't meet the certain criteria of that particular, government or locality. I think that's where the power of blockchain lies. It's this idea that anyone can get involved, and there's the barrier to entry is just about trying to see if you can actually acquire that native cryptocurrency or that native token. But beyond that, anyone can really get involved in the system as long as you have a computer, as long as you have an internet connection. And even in areas with oppressive regimes, you can still use VPNs, and you can make sure that you can try to get involved in the best way possible. So it's this idea of inclusion and being able to communicate financially with someone halfway across the world, like we're doing right now. We're all in different locations. We all kind of come together for this project called Cardano. None of us would have ever met probably if it wasn't for this project. And while we all lead different financial paths, this project is kind of what ties everyone in this room together.
All right.
Are you following so far? Are you understanding what's being spoken about here?
Yes. So I want to ask a question. So in my head, there's this confusion around cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and blockchain technology. Can I get it unpacked or separated, or maybe an explanation that helps me know which is which and what separates the one from the other. Then we can now talk about what Cardano does.
Yeah, so that question is going to take some time to unpack, but basically cryptocurrencies, they utilize blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is a way to create a ledger, an accounting ledger. And banks use ledgers in order to figure out what's being deposited or withdrawn from their accounts on a day-by-day basis. And it's the same thing for blockchain, but the difference is that the person or the people or the entities that are creating the ledger or are confirming the ledger, it's not a single party. It's the world. It's whoever's getting involved with that process, whether they're mining for Bitcoin or whether they're operating a stake pool for Cardano. They're the ones verifying the accuracy of that ledger. So when you say that there's not too, there are a lot of differences between Bitcoin and Cardano, but as far as blockchain technology, they're kind of all trying to achieve the same thing. They have similar goals, but they're approaching it at a completely different way. I don't want to try to make this too complex to start off with and start talking about smart contracts and everything like that. But what you can look at cryptocurrencies as a general or as a general newbie, you can just look at it as a way to create a ledger to account for financial data. And pretty much all of them are trying to create this ledger in a decentralized way. That's the goal.
I think if I could add one thing to that, Philippe, Cardano gives us not just financial data, but any data, data around identity. When you get Altala Prism, right? Any type of metadata that you want to attach to a transaction. The other day, I saw a stake pool operator sent a transaction with a metadata of like a poem or like a tale or something from like a joke that IOHK told the stake pool operator in a bar or something. So what I'm saying is any type of data can be attached to these transactions in a meaningful way, in a way that we just didn't have before with Bitcoin or Ethereum. So we have to keep that in mind as well. It's beyond even financial data, but yeah, the first kind of understanding of blockchain, like Philippe said, an algorithmic accounting system that allows you to account for financial data. Anyone can input, anyone can validate and check the system. That's kind of the open nature of the public blockchain.
Okay.
I just intervene. So DC, when you say metadata, so let's say I'm sending money through like my regular bank account, is that like the little transaction description that I'll put in that? Would that be that? But like in this case, you're saying people are adding poems and stuff like that. So could you add anything?
You could add another smart contract script as metadata. Poem is like the most rudimentary like form of that. That was just someone showing what you can do with metadata. There was no ADA sent in that transaction. It was just a metadata transaction, right? The only ADA that was sent was the transaction fee itself to put that transaction on the blockchain. So there's an example of something that has nothing to do with financial data. It's all just metadata. Metadata can be anything. It could be the place you're at. It could be anything that you don't just get from the blockchain that you'd like to record. It could be another smart contract that you want to feed into. Right? So many types of things can count as metadata, right? So that's kind of something to keep in mind.
Okay. Dara, how are you feeling? So is it making sense?
Okay.
Yes. There's a base understanding here that I'm getting, which is the fact that it's all tied around blockchain technology. But I actually want Philip to get to the point where maybe just help me separate it. What's Bitcoin and what's the difference between that and Cardano? I think that will help my understanding.
Okay, so Bitcoin is fundamentally, it's the genesis of this cryptocurrency movement. It basically does one thing. I send Bitcoin to DC, I send Bitcoin to Dara, I send Bitcoin to anyone, they receive the Bitcoin, transaction gets logged, miners mine, validate the blocks, and the cryptocurrency moves forward. It's very one-sided. It's the first generation of blockchain. There's another generation, it's called the second generation of blockchain, which is Ethereum. And Ethereum added smart contracts to it. So you can send Ethereum from one party to another, but you can also create these smart contracts, which are basically programs or code that allows people to do more complex things. So they can be just swapping, creating new tokens within that Ethereum protocol, swapping from one token to another token, creating some sort of contract. Lots of different things can be done with this second generation of blockchain. And Cardano is supposed to be the pinnacle, the third generation of blockchain. And it's supposed to take everything that Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing and just take it to that next level. So it's going to be more secure. The smart contracts are going to be more secure as well. There's a problem with security as far as creating smart contracts within Ethereum. That's going to be solved within Cardano. So it's going to be the smart contract platform. It's going to be this voting platform as far as governance. You can vote, creating these voting systems, and also create, like you heard earlier, stake pool operators. So these are the people that are validating the blockchain. So there's staking. It's proof of stake. What Ethereum and Bitcoin are right now is proof of work, which is a completely different model from proof of stake. And in essence, proof of stake is a lot less energy intensive. It's a lot more sustainable, and it actually decreases the barrier to entry, allows a lot more people to get involved. And yeah, I don't want to ramble on too much and start using a whole bunch of terms that are a little bit foreign. So I'm trying to tailor what I'm saying, but am I making sense or?
Yes, you are absolutely.
Okay, I guess I have one more question. Sorry, Philippe. So for like blockchain technology, I think since the first introduction or the first application of blockchain is actually cryptocurrencies. For a lot of people down here in Africa, we don't have a solid should I say financial education, right? We don't, since like the first introduction has to do with finance and it having that very disruptive should I say effect and being so revolutionary. Like trying to explain what blockchain technology is to a lot of people down here is a bit uh, I mean, it feels like they're alienated from it, because they don't really understand the concept of finances, first of all. And now you're trying to tell them about decentralized finance, like or things like blockchain technology. What do you think is the best approach, in terms of like mass adoption for people in Africa, talking about blockchain technology, without, rambling about like, terms in finances and stuff like that? I mean, how do you see Cardano actually causing that, having that mass adoption in Africa, in places like Africa or India or any third world country, separating finances from blockchain technology?
That's a difficult question. That's a very difficult question. The first way I would try to convince people or try to tell people that are living in different areas around the world about why blockchain is important is just about money transfer in general. I think that's one of the basic premises of why cryptocurrency is so superior to regular cash. My entire family, I'm of Haitian descent, and when we need to get money to Haiti, it's usually someone flying over here, handing a check. They fly back, they deposit it in a bank in Haiti, they withdraw goods and then give it to that person. That process is very long, it's very arduous. It requires a lot more as far as fees. I mean, this is what we do to try to get away from the fees. People are going to come from Haiti anyway to come to the States to get things. So we just pack things along with them to give to people and support my family members. But this is not the way how money transfer should be. So like you should be able to send money from country A to country B with limited fees and as quickly as possible. Right now, it's not just a developing world to developed world money transfer system. I mean, I do business with companies in like Sweden, and I still wire transfer. I send wire transfers, and it still takes greater than 24 hours. It usually sometimes takes 2 days. And it's to the point where you have to establish this business rapport with these companies. And in order for them to even start accepting your money and accepting your business, you have to often put money up front in order to start that relationship. And so it's a greater world problem about moving money from place A to place B. And as soon as you move money from place A to place B and you use a traditional banking system, they charge you a lot of money, whether that be the wire transfer fees that you're paying from Bank of America for like $35, and you may just be doing a small money transfer. Why pay all that money? Or you're going to Western Union or MoneyGram, and you're sending money to another country, and they're charging you 17-20% fees in order to send that little money. It's about trying to get as much money from point A to point B with as little friction in the middle as possible. So there's a lot of hands that are grabbing within this current financial system, and it's really not efficient whatsoever. It's to the point where when one bank sends money to another bank, that second bank has to have that much money in reserves in order for that transaction to go through. And that's why the process is so slow. But with cryptocurrency, I could send you cryptocurrency right now. And if you have a dataless wallet, which is the native wallet for Cardano, you're going to be able to receive your ADA in under a minute, and sometimes even less, depending on your internet connection. It could be seconds. So it's about moving money from one party to another party as quickly as possible. And one of the problems that I see, especially with developing countries and developing nations, is that flexibility. When you look at countries, you have to be able to separate yourself from like a local environment and try to go as broad as possible. The way you grow business is to accept currency and accept business from as many different places as possible. And if you do not have that flexibility, you're always stuck within the confines of your local small town or city. And unfortunately, not all of us win the geographic lottery. So depending on where you're born, the amount of money that you can make in that particular town is already capped. So in order for you to expand your reach, I mean, say you're selling a product or selling a service, you want to try to reach your entire country or your entire continent. And in order to do that, you need to have the flexibility in order to accept currency as quickly as possible and send currency as quickly as possible. So I think that's the first thing that could help different countries around the world.
That makes me think about an article I actually read where it was speaking about Nigerian businessmen and businesswomen and how they would have to transfer their exchange their naira into dollars before they could do business with certain companies, because naira is not correct. Not as strong enough to be used in business.
That makes sense. I mean, and that's tough. And I'm sure that's not the only currency that's like that. And, I mean, I couldn't, like, I'm just being honest, my business, I wouldn't accept naira as a method of payment. And that's only because the amount of friction in order for me to convert naira to US dollars, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what fees my bank would charge. So it's not like I don't want to do business on a more global scale, but it's very difficult if we're not on the same standard.
I mean, we have a development team in northern India. They don't even want to talk about rupees at all. Okay, all they want to talk about is US dollar, because they'll handle all of the conversion and all those transaction fees, but to try to pay them in rupee is just like a whole different, procedure on it. So it's just like, yeah, when you're talking about the global economy, and especially the global decentralized economy we're moving into, it's all going to be US dollar or stablecoin US dollar. And thankfully, with multi-asset ledger, Cardano is going to be able to have many different types of decentralized and centralized, and I'm sure hybrid versions of stablecoins. But that's just going to be the move, because I don't think that we're going to be just transacting with these emerging market currencies when there's something as strong as the US dollar and everyone can have access to it. Now, when you think about the euro dollar and how that system works, like people around the world who want access to a US dollar and denominated debt in that, but they don't want the Fed or the US Treasury over them, with their policy and their regulation. So it's a whole entire economy that's operating right now, outside of the jurisdiction of the US, and crypto is just doing that on rails. We're just saying, okay, this is now digital 24/7, doesn't turn off. So it's like, of course, there's product market fit around stable coins, access to the US dollar, right? Like that's kind of what we've always wanted.
DC, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned decentralization. What is decentralization exactly?
Oh my gosh! Like, where do you want to start? Decentralization is a buzzword as much as it is like a term that I think is a scale. Because when are you at decentralization? Is Bitcoin decentralized? Yeah, sure. But there's 10 nodes in China that if the Chinese government shuts them down, there's no more Bitcoin hash rate. So what happens then? How decentralized is it, right? So is Cardano decentralized enough with 1,200 stake pools? And by decentralized, I mean spread around the world. I mean distributed, I mean the actual state control the network. In Cardano, we control it with ADA, right? So your ADA stake as a stake pool operator is what controls and helps decentralize the network. If everyone has as much stake as IOHK, that means there's 10 pools running the network. Is that decentralized or centralized like what we have now? So it's a question, right? It's all a scale, it's all hybrid. There's no end game. You always try to push the point. So that to me is kind of what decentralization means. It's like a scale.
All right, DC used the word decentralization, and then you used the word access. And Philippe also mentioned flexibility and the fact that Cardano allows you do business beyond the shores of your locality. Now, those are three very strong points that I'm hoping at the end of this conversation we should be able to tie them together, and then in a way that a newbie like me understands. So here's my question. In Philippe's opening statement, he said something about the fact that Bitcoin is the first generation of blockchain, and then Cardano is the early stages of what will be the third generation. Now, I'm an individual who is resident in Nigeria, a country in Africa. Of course, there are lots of barriers to doing business, and listening to something like this, especially the fact that it allows me be flexible and then have access to technology that allows me function outside of my locality. And then the third thing, this decentralization thing that DC keeps talking about. Now, I want to ask, my first question is, what's the entry point for a new person? Okay, from what has been said, clearly this is amazing. This is fantastic technology. Any person who is interested in growth should be able to jump on it and then just move on. So what's the first stage? If you were to put it to me as a 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, what are the steps that I need to take, to get into this space as maybe like an entry level, something like that? I don't know if there's something like that you could break down for me so I understand it better.
Yeah, that's a I don't want to like offer any financial advice or anything like that. So I'm going to watch the way I respond to this question. But I think the first thing that you can do is just to try to educate yourself as much as possible. Try to get involved with the crypto community. I mean, you don't need to be invested in the asset in order to understand what's going on. And the more you understand, the more you're going to understand your place within cryptocurrency, whether that's being an investor, whether that's a developer, whether that's creating some sort of business and trying to get funded by the community. You'll figure out where you lie just based on how much you know and how much you grasp the system and where you want to be. Like I said before, I mean, we're all in different localities. So it's like we all have different financial goals, and our approach towards finances may differ. But I think that people in general have similar goals. They want to try to achieve this sort of financial freedom, and at the same time be in control of their assets, having autonomy over their funds. So in order to do that, you need to understand where that lies, where the future of money lies. And I think that it probably lies within cryptocurrencies, because right now with our current financial system, wherever you are around the world, it's a centralized entity that can either pull the plug on you depending on whether you do this on Monday or whether you do this on Sunday. Whatever happens, you can always get messed up by centralized. If you haven't faced that problem yet, it's just because you probably haven't lived long enough. everyone in this room, the longer you live, the higher chance that you're going to have some sort of friction or some sort of barrier to entry when you're trying to get a loan, a small business loan, or when you're trying to expand, when you're trying to get a line of credit. You know, my business has been in business for years, almost a decade. And it's like, I've had multiple road bumps, and, you know, I can prove that I generate this amount of revenue, this amount of profit, but because my business is not debt based, it's hard for me to get the line of credit that I'm asking for. It's hard for me to get this that I'm asking for. It's hard for me to get that what I'm asking for. So that kind of pushes me towards the fringes, the alternatives. What can I do differently? And something like Cardano, it's as easy as downloading a dataless wallet. It's as easy as visiting the Cardano forum and educating yourself and knowing that, you know, you can literally have your funds, you know, you can have your funds on the same computer that you're working on or the same phone that you're working on. And regardless if you're in this city or this city, you can access your funds and no one's going to take that away from you. The only thing that can bar you from seeing your money or your funds is probably a stable internet connection. So yeah, I mean, just learn and you'll find your place, I think.
Yeah, so Philippe kind of took that from like a investor, owner of ADA, owner of the Cardano network perspective, which I think is huge. I think the ability to really own your own funds and have a digital Swiss bank account and something like Daedalus or Aurora, that's a big selling point for Cardano. But Dara, you also said something earlier about local solutions that I kind of wanted to hit on, because I think that this kind of goes kind of missed a lot of the time when you're not talking about someone who's just an investor, right? If you're talking about someone who's a developer or someone like me who thinks about products and applications that you can build on top of Cardano, right? And you think about local problems that you're having, right? Think about any asset in your local community. It could be as simple as real estate that is not tied to deeds that needs to be digitized. It could be as simple as digitizing the deeds to those homes, working with the government in something like a public-private partnership. It could be auto. It could be any asset that is well bought and sold, but there's illiquidity, there's no marketplace for it. You want it to be digitized and anyone can basically sell it on a blockchain or tokenize it and sell bits and pieces. Those are the type of early local solution wins I think we're going to see on Cardano. I really hope that a lot of it starts with things like natural resources, real estate, auto loans, and things like this, the selling of auto and cars and different type of things, transportation related. I think these are going to be the early local wins before you're talking about like the killer application that takes over everything. And to be honest, I think killer application is so kind of overrated as a term. Like we know what killer application is. Like crypto is a killer application. US dollar stablecoin on crypto, killer application, right? Like everything else is just taking those primitives and building local solutions that I think you're going to understand more than any of us will, because you live in Port Harcourt, you're with Josh. You see the issues that are affecting your community way more than any of us as, product people who live in America or Canada or the West are ever going to be able to, help you with. So I think there's that huge part of it that is kind of, it's the undertone of Cardano, right? When you look at how they actually develop the network, when you look at how simple it's actually going to be to use the DSL and create different tokens and different kind of policies built into your forging script for your token, whatever that is, right? Different applications. The process of hiring a Plutus or Marlowe dev to build a very bespoke application for you, for whatever problem you're trying to solve, right? Like, I think we're quickly heading to a place where local solutions is actually going to be like the real thing. It's going to be a very grass-led movement for Cardano. So I kind of wanted to just hit on that. I think that's a really good point.
And Dara, you're asking for your first step. I would say
yes.
This week, step one, you have to get a wallet. Okay. And that does take a few steps. So like Philippe said, there's some research involved in getting your wallet. And then there's this crazy thing you have to do where you're going to get 15 secret words. And it seems like a silly thing, but you have to like store these words somewhere. And I know that's kind of like a weird thing to wrap your mind around at first, but ask Josh to kind of walk you through that process, because storing that's like your password. And if you lose it, you lose access to your money, right? So people have all sorts of creative ways to either use their intelligence or other technology to hold on to those words, right? And once you have those, then you're ready to hold some ADA for yourself. So once you have those words down, what I would recommend is going and knocking on Josh's door and asking him to send you, then you got to ask him to send you your first couple of ADA, you know? Josh, what do you good for like 5-10 ADA? Right? And that really is step one. And we've talked, like Josh has talked about this before, right? If we're going to talk about using a new kind of money, the first thing you have to do is just feel what it's like to have your hands on it.
That's true. That's correct. That's
Right?
correct.
So if you can do that, your secret words, and then get some from Josh, and then we can talk about what steps 3 and 4 and 5 are.
I think it's also important to note that within you saying like these 15 words that you have to manage, within taking control of your own money, that's very important. We go to the banks and we leave our money there. And to a certain extent, the banks are our 15 words and we trust them to manage our money and keep it secure. But if you want to take control of your own money, then you have to keep your 15 words secure and to a certain extent, be your own bank. Now, a lot of people maybe aren't willing to do that. But if I guess you want to hop on this wave, hop on this movement, you need to understand the importance of like taking control of your own money in that situation. And that's what it entails. It really entails you becoming I guess the bodyguard of your own money rather than relying on the bank to do it. Because time and time again, people have seen maybe the banks are not as trustworthy as they may be, and maybe they've messed some people over along the way. So yeah, I just wanted to put that point out there anyways.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in and say, you know, once you have your wallet and you know your 15 words, there are other ways you can get hold of cryptocurrency. I use the Brave browser on my laptop, so that's going to pay me a cryptocurrency called BAT every time that I view an advert. Now you don't get a lot of cryptocurrency, but who knows? Like 5 years from now, it might actually be worth something. So these are like easy kind of like passive ways that you can start to earn cryptocurrency. It's not just about taking your money and, you know, investing. Like you can actually, you know, provide some kind of value or work to a network and start to earn cryptocurrency from that.
That's what I was kind of trying to hit on, Tashoma. Like, there's going to be opportunities with Project Catalyst, especially as it matures. Like, we're pretty early right now, but they're going to pay people, and they already are, just to advise, just to read these proposals and just give feedback on it, honest feedback of what you thought. So Dara, if you wanted to, like, you know, if we would have had this conversation a month ago, we could have said, Dara's pretty good at understanding, you know, what proposals could realistically be implemented. He wants to sign up as a proposal reviewer. You sign up, and now you're getting paid from the blockchain just to review these. And there'll be more, you know, there'll be translators, there'll be folks doing community meetups, like all these things, and you're just working for the blockchain. So I think we're going to move into a world, especially with Cardano, where it's less about just people buying the token on the open market, and it's way more about people actually working for the blockchain. Like, you know, it's just going to quickly move to that. Stake pool operators is like the first wave of that, but we're going to see a lot more of that, I think, as we mature.
So I want to ask, is there like a website or a community link? Because this, I've got to tell you guys, this is a lot of information to take in. All right, so it's a lot of information to take in. This is basically like telling me that this is a whole new world. I mean, Philippe, I talked about the fact. Sorry. Hello, can I go on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We lost you for a second, but yeah, you can go on cardano.org. That's the main website, and you can also go on forum.cardano.org. That's the Cardano Forum website, and you'll find it on the cardano.org website. So cardano.org, and you're going to be able to also find the thing that DC was talking about, Catalyst, Project Catalyst. It's cardano.ideascale.com. You'll probably find a more complete link on the forum. I don't want to butcher it whatsoever, but that's the place to start. That's the place to start. Go to cardano.org. There's a lot of information on there. It'll lead you to the forum. It'll lead you to cardano.ideascale.com. And yeah, that's where you need to begin.
Awesome. I guess the most important thing is that you actually do begin. You know, don't just come into the podcast and not go research it later. Like, you actually do need to do the research. Because for me, even, like, I was brought into this ecosystem about 2-3 months ago. A friend of mine just came to me and started speaking to me about it. And it kind of clicked with me there. But from there, every day I just started reading articles about cryptocurrency and blockchain. And every single day, as I read more and more, I began to understand more and more. And at that stage, I'm not putting my money into anything even. I'm just reading about it. And you will see your knowledge begins to grow from there. And you begin to see almost the endless possibilities that can be created on top of this new technology. And yeah, it just really opens up your world. So I really do advise you, just like, do your own research as much as you can and read and watch videos or whatever it may be, just to really understand it for yourself. Because as Philippe said, like, it's not for us to sit here and give you financial advice. No, that's actually not what it's about. If you just focus on the money aspect of this, you'll completely miss the boat on all of this. It's the technology and what it can do for our society that's actually the revolutionary thing. Yes, there's going to be some people that will make money off it. There's no denying that. But in terms of like the actual advancements in society, I think that's where the real wealth exists.
Yes, because if I go over with the way DC is talking about this, DC talks about it from a point of a product developer, someone who is able to create services on the back of the blockchain technology. And you know, I heard it somewhere in a video, but it's just listening to him talk. I think it pretty much came full circle. And like, so there's lots of things that can happen just working on this technology. You know, initially I had the thought of, I don't even understand Bitcoin. And I don't even understand, Bitcoin. And then there's Ethereum. And now there is Cardano. You know, but you, Azeez, being a creative person as well, I feel safe in the fact that, okay, we're not all techies, we're not all, this community is not filled with programmers and coders and all of that. A regular guy, a regular person can just go online and then devote to learning. So that's a big takeaway for me. Devote to learning, and just see how to take the steps as James recommended. Josh is in for some trouble. I can guarantee you that.
Josh, are you ready?
Tara, what do you do for work?
Primarily, I'm a brand person, so I design, I print, I make T-shirts. I'm just a brand guy, awesome. Primarily. So I have interest in social media. I'm interested. I'm an enthusiast of social media and the power of it, and technology and the power of it. So hearing about things like this, they excite me. So they pique my curiosity to want to find out. It's just that I've never really had someone talk to me about Bitcoin in a language that I understand or in a method that I can relate with. All right, DC said something about how that it's, he said something about the fact that it's beyond financial literacy. And then Azeez has talked about the fact that if you put your eyes on the money alone, which is what I see everywhere, it's just been focused about making money, and trying to keep money in coins. And I'm like, I don't even understand what this is. So yes, I've just being here today, I've passed that level. So I'm able to understand that this goes beyond the money. So it's a whole new word. I think Philippe used the word that it's the money of the future. So it's interesting for me, and I'm going to commit to the learning bits and then see where that leads really.
I just want to say, because Dara, it sounds like you're about to go down the rabbit hole. When I went down the rabbit hole, it was a few years ago, but honestly, like, I remember each day, like, staying up, just reading everything I could about Cardano, like looking at the whiteboard videos, the original ones from Charles, and, seeing what the vision was, right? And like, beyond the money, right? Beyond any profit or anything, like being a part of a community like this, like what Cardano is going after, and when you realize the tech, Shelly's hair, Gogan is very close, right? Like, it's just like, wow, this is so much deeper than just tickers and prices, right? This is like world-changing technology that anyone can access in just a couple months. Like when Plutus is live, think about that. Anyone can use this blockchain to escrow, build a local solution. I mean, I can name 10 right now, but it would take up too much time. But I'm telling you guys, like, there will be things and there will be templated versions of this. IOHK is working behind the scenes on creating things like, and James as well, right? There's going to be Cardano starter kits. There's going to be APIs and learn how to do it in DIY versions of how to build a local bond for your local government, water department to do that. Like there's going to be all these solutions that can really be implemented at a very kind of templatable blockchain as a service kind of fashion on Cardano that we've actually just never seen before. So to me, that when you learn about what those solutions are, the potential use cases, that is so much cooler than learning about the price or anything dealing with that. So Dara, go down the rabbit hole, cardano.org. I mean, if you need any help, you got all of us here to answer questions. So I'm excited for you, man, seriously.
I'm going to work on that. Then I'm not sure if this is a question or a request. So is that something like maybe a structured learning system that helps one cut that learning curve?
I wish there was. I really do. I would say a combination of cardano.org and Edutainment. Actually, I think if you use Edutainment in the right way, you can go through basically all of Charles's AMAs and say, Dara, say you have a specific question about Cardano. Like if can someone drop the Edutainment link in here? And specifically the link to the AMA search, because when you go there and you say, okay, Dara, maybe you have a question on what does staking mean? You just type in staking into that AMA search and you'll be able to see all of Charles's videos timestamped for where he talks about staking on Cardano, what that means, what it looks like, all those things. So it's a nice way to kind of upskill you really quick in all things Cardano, I think. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here, okay? So I just want to thank everyone in the audience for being a part of today's show, wherever you are in the world. And I'd like to thank our expert, Philippe, and referee, Dara. It's been amazing having you two on the show today. I also want to thank our amazing AfroFinLab panelists. Know that you guys are appreciated. And to our audience, please hit subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at AfroFinLab. So the show has ended, but the conversations continue. And I'd like to take this moment to invite you behind the curtains to our post-show discussion so feel free to stick around. And see you next Sunday.
Isn't the shit true?